Travel into the European Union is being severely restricted to contain the spread of the coronavirus. European Union leaders have agreed on a 30-day ban on travellers entering the bloc. The decision will affect most non-citizens and non-residents of the European Union, with some exceptions. It will be up to each member state to implement the new regulations. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the EU would do what's necessary to protect the public's health and the economy.
All across Europe, movement is grinding to a halt. In Berlin, Chancellor Merkel announced that even travel into the EU will now cease.
Travel into Europe from countries that are not part of the European Union and are not Great Britain is prohibited with very few exceptions. This ban has to be implemented by the member states and will apply for 30 days.
Travel within the Union has also become increasingly difficult. Germany, in the centre of Europe, has been hemmed in by border closures. And even within countries, quarantines are keeping people at home. On Wednesday, Belgium will be the latest country to implement a complete lockdown.
Civilians are obliged to stay at home in order to avoid as much contact as possible outside their close family, except to go to work, except for essential journeys, to go to the doctor, to the grocery store, to the post office, to the bank, to the pharmacy, to get petrol, or to help people in need.
In Ireland, streets were empty as St. Patrick's Day celebrations were called off, and the Prime Minister delivered a sombre address to the nation.
Tonight, on our national holiday, I want to send a message around the world. We are in this together. To the people of China, Spain and Italy, who've suffered untold heartbreak and loss, we are with you. To everyone who's lost a loved one to this virus, we are with you. To all those living in the shadow of what is to come, we are with you.
Pubs and schools are closed and large gatherings forbidden. In Ireland and the rest of Europe, social distancing is the price to pay to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
And for more on Europe's response to this crisis, let's bring in our political correspondent, Hans Brandt. Hans, tell us who precisely will be affected by the 30-day travel ban?
Well, the European Union prefers not to call it a ban, but a temporary restriction. But in effect, it applies to all citizens of non-EU countries and of a number of countries that are very, very closely associated with the EU. That is Switzerland, Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. So citizens from these countries are allowed into the EU. Citizens from other countries from outside the EU are not allowed in unless they have permanent residence here in the European Union or in one of those other countries. And there is also some level of access for members of families of people who live in the EU, who are citizens of the EU, and certain exceptions such as for medical personnel.
Now, so it's not a travel ban, but travel restrictions, you say, and Germany seems to be leading the case of those 30 days travel restrictions. Is that so? And if so, why?
Yes, I think you can say that. The point is that the European Union cannot, in fact, impose such a ban. It can propose it to its member states, and the member states themselves have to implement it. So Germany implemented this last night as soon as it had been decided, simply by a declaration, by closing its borders, as it were. There are other countries within the European Union, such as the Czech Republic, for instance, who already have in place travel bans that are similar. The Czech Republic, in fact, will not allow anybody who is not a citizen of the Czech Republic into that country at the moment, including other EU citizens. So the implementation is still to be implemented by various countries, but it's going to be very quickly, I imagine.
All right. Not only people are travelling, goods also move across a border. And Angela Merkel had something to say about that. Let's listen in.
We pledge to coordinate the repatriation of European Union citizens stranded, in quotation marks, in other parts of the world. We also discussed the supply of medical products and equipment. At the request of many member states, the Commission has decided to undertake collective tenders to obtain certain medical goods. A very welcome move for all.
Well, Angela Merkel just mentioned issuing tenders for certain medical goods. Now, is Europe actually working together to ensure that the most vulnerable member states like Italy do have enough supplies?
I think we have to say that kind of cooperation has been really lacking in recent weeks. Initially, France imposed a ban on exporting certain goods from France. Germany also imposed a ban on exporting things like surgical masks from Germany. Both of those restrictions are now slightly being lifted, and exports under control of the European Union are to be allowed into other European Union countries. So one is trying to restart the internal exchange within the European Union. As I said earlier, there are several countries that have closed their borders within the European Union. Germany as well has instituted controls at certain borders, and this is restricting the exchange of goods, not only of goods such as medical supplies, but of goods of everyday life. There are backups at all border posts within the European Union, some of them for 20 or 40 hours. So trying to get that internal trade going again is part of the reason why the external borders are being closed at the moment.
So, I mean, Germany is right at the centre, at the heart of the European Union. How worried is Germany that goods, both medical and other goods, could dry up in this period?
Well, at the moment, the Germans are saying that, supplies of daily life, food and medical supplies are not restricted at the moment. There's no problem with getting them. Shops, in fact, are being opened on Sundays, which is unusual in Germany, so that people can get their daily goods.